RVBN, the Rich Video Blog Network. Top 10 list. Personality profiles, weekly NFL predictions, and a whole lot more. You are one stop for news, entertainment, sports, weather, and a whole lot more. RVB in Billerica, Massachusetts. Good afternoon, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Google+. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Friday, October 7th, 2016, around 4:45 in the afternoon in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's a sunny day out today, highs in the mid-70s, and it's going to be perfect for the next several days. Still keep prayers and thoughts to the people affected by the Hurricane Matthew in the Florida coast and Georgia and South Carolina. The hurricane is still very strong, so keep them in your thoughts. Some news to report on the RVBN Newswire. The Toronto Blue Jays beat up on the Texas Rangers by the score of 5-3 to go up 2-0 in the American League Division Series. The series goes to Rogers Center for Game 3 Sunday afternoon on TBS, and this could be the Blue Jays sweeping the Rangers out of the playoffs. And speaking about Toronto Raptors star Kyle Lowry has announced he's going to opt out of his final year of his contract in 2017-2018 season, so he'll become a free agent at the end of this year. Well, that might be a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe he wants more money from the Raptors. And speaking about the NBA and NBA Players Association is optimistic that a new collective bargaining agreement will be in place by December 15th of this year. December 15th is the option for the NBA owners to void the rest of the collective bargaining agreement that goes to 2021 at the end of this year. But the NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and the NBA Players Association President Michelle Roberts have been having productive, great meetings about the CBA, the progress of it, and they say a deal could be imminent, which is a good thing. Don't need an NBA lockout in 2017. That's about it on the news from the RVBN Newswire. Be back in 1 minute. Please do not walk on or near the railroad tracks, especially wearing headphones and listening to your iPod. You cannot hear a train coming. Trains cannot stop to see a person walking on the tracks. It's totally impossible. So do not play around on the tracks. Trains are bigger than you. They can kill you. You're trespassing if you're walking on railroad tracks. So please don't walk on them. I'm back. Did you miss me? My second video blog subject of the day is about the dark period of the NBA. The NBA had a dark period between the early 1970s through the early 1980s. The NBA is known for being like one of the best sports brands out there behind our NFL and Major League Baseball with all the superstar players, superstar teams, and so much of these marketing merchandise and stuff like that. The NBA wasn't always like that. the NBA was more of a kind of a niche sport when it first developed in the 40s, and it kind of found its place in the sporting world. They were very low on the totem pole back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And from the early 70s through the early 1980s, the NBA kind of had a dark period. They had some great players, but the image of the NBA was horrible, and by the late 70s, the league almost folded. Background on that. The NBA in the early to mid 70s was having so much of an image problem because many of its players were using drugs, cocaine, and some of them dropped out of the league. Some of them continued to play while doing cocaine, but they did not have a very strict drug policy on that, and several of the players, when they were playing, didn't really look like in the greatest condition to play if they were doing cocaine. Also, another problem the NBA had during this time period, that most of the NBA teams had a majority of its rosters of African American, and this is when the time where the civil rights movement was over, like in the 60s, but it still kind of had a little bit of a prevalence in the 70s, and many advertisers kind of balked at the idea of advertising with the NBA if the majority of them were African American. That was very sad that many of the advertisers did not want to do that for the NBA because they thought the league was too African American. There were some teams that just had all its players African American, and that got a lot of people turned off on the NBA. But the majority of the basketball players, college and pro, are of African American descent. Another problem the NBA had during this time period of the 1970s and early 1980s, the talent pool was very, very shallow at that time. Even though they had 22 teams, with the merger of the ABA in 1976, there was not enough good players to go around, and some of the lesser-known roster spots were players who had no business playing in the NBA, and it just suffered in the play. Plus, the NBA was having attendance problems. Some of the teams were playing through half-empty arenas, and the salaries were kind of very out of control. The league didn't have a salary cap back then, and there were a lot of NBA teams flickering on the verge of bankruptcy, and the only thing that kind of saved the NBA during this time period was the television contract with CBS. The television contract with CBS was only about maybe $70–80 million, but that really helped a lot of these teams kind of stay afloat. But many CBS affiliates were not even showing the NBA during regular season games, especially down the southern part of the United States, surprisingly, when college basketball was hot. And some of these CBS affiliates in cities that didn't have another independent station, they didn't even bother showing the games. And there were cities that had NBA teams like Atlanta. The Atlanta CBS affiliate just didn't decide to show the NBA games, so they went to show syndicated stuff, and the NBA had to be found on a low-powered independent station doing that. Plus, they had the finals on tape delay through the entire nation, except for the cities that were playing in the NBA finals. Because back then, CBS had a strong primetime lineup, like with Dallas, Dukes of Hazzard, Incredible Hulk, and so many others. They didn't want to preempt it to show NBA finals games, which back then was not the best. And even when Bird and Magic entered the NBA in 1979, the NBA was starting to come a little out of the dark period, but still, it still had its problems. They said in 1981 that they were going to have about 4 or 5 NBA teams fold, but the Players Association just blocked that move because they would have like gone on strike and stuff, and they told the NBA that they needed some salary structure to keep the NBA afloat. In 1983, NBA lawyer Gary Bettman formed the NBA's first salary cap, and that made the league solvent. And plus, with Bird and Magic being real popular, that got the NBA out of the doldrums, and many companies were advertising with the NBA. And when David Stern became commissioner in February 1984, the league took off by storm and went worldwide and global. Every league has its problems, and the NBA was no different. And people are glad that the NBA survived its dark period, because if Bird or Magic didn't come along, or if CBS pulled the plug on the NBA contract they had in the late 1970s, there would be a good possibility the NBA would not be in existence, because the other major broadcasting networks, ABC and NBC, probably wouldn't have not picked up the NBA during this time period, because it was kind of like nobody was interested in it, of the NBA, besides in the local markets. But everybody now is really interested in the NBA. And that's about it on that. I'll be back with the third and final video blog of the night, which will be about NET, the National Education Television Network, which was around from the early 1950s to 1970. Keep calm, everybody. I'm a Julie Bunny guy. Molly Rose Blood of WCCOX and his nice legs. Elizabeth Hart, so stunning, she's the best. Amy Sweezy's awesome Amy. Linda Church of WPIX Channel 11, New York, such a rocking cougar. She got the best legs in New York City. And Bob Gibbs of ABC 11 has a sweet southern accent, and she got the nicest legs in Raleigh, North Carolina. And in the words of Sean, would you get out? See you later. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Google.